Good afternoon. So my name is Mattias. I'm from the European Commission in Brussels. I'm very happy to be here today at the Stockholm Fintech Week to speak about digital finance and the role of policy, and be it European policy actually in that respect. I will shortly take you through the plans that we're having in Brussels for how we can help facilitate the development of European digital finance, which we believe is very important. And we'll speak around the package of measures that we adopted in September last year and that we are now actively promoting. So it'll be a little bit about the strategy that we set out and the legislative proposals that accompanied that strategy. Now, the Commission's involvement in digital finance is not surprising. There's a big kind of overarching political context focusing on the importance for Europe as a whole, Sweden included, of digitalization and the opportunities, benefits, and challenges that brings along. The quotes you're seeing here are from Ursula von der Leyen, the Commission President, who last year also set out her vision of Europe's digital decade. Stressing the importance, as you see, of the importance of us to kind of lead the way on digital, to actually so that we don't become dependent on others entirely, who will then set the standards. And she also stressed the importance of kind of a real data economy that would then kind of facilitate innovation and new jobs, and hence also kind of outlined the Commission's kind of work on one particular thing highlight here, which is kind of European e-identities. That political involvement is, of course, backed by an economic context, the ongoing digital transformation of society as a whole, the economy, and the financial system. I think we all perceive this in kind of our daily lives. Digitalization changes the way we interact with people, changes our social life, and for businesses and firms and people, it also creates new kind of ways of making revenue and produce value. And of course, it has an impact on business models. What we've also seen in these challenging times, the pandemic, is that has accelerated that transformation, which in itself is not new. It's been with us for many years, but it has clearly made a step change during the pandemic. I think the pandemic has indicated all the benefits that this will bring in terms of being able to continue access kind of all types of services, financial services included, thanks to digital means. However, of course, there are policy questions which we, from my perspective, are very much involved in. And it does, for example, just to give you two examples from a European perspective, from us kind of sitting in Brussels. Of course, digital means, the digital transformation has the potential to kind of change how consumers and firms meet in the single market. What impact does it have? Does it imply anything for us in the way that we regulate the single market in particular, which is kind of a key focus of us in the Commission? It also has the potential to kind of change finance pretty fundamentally, bringing both benefits and risks. And we, as kind of guardians of the EU financial regulation and supervisory framework, have to ask ourselves a question: are our rules and supervisory arrangements adequate to handle these changes, or is there anything we need to do? And it was very much with these kind of questions at the back of our minds that we last September adopted a set of measures in a package in September last year. And one of them, which is the key kind of focus of my talk today, was a kind of setting out our strategic priorities for the years to come, aimed at really kind of setting the kind of chart the course for where we want to go in the coming years, to accompany this process of digital transformation and to ensure that it delivers value to Europeans and to European firms. So this strategy is kind of supposed to guide the Commission's actions in the years to come, and it's structured around four priorities, which you see here on the screen. First, tackle fragmentation in the digital single market. Pretty traditional. We build the single market. We need to ensure that it works also for digital means. Second, to take a closer look at the EU regulations we have in place for financial services to ensure that it facilitates digital information innovation. Third, to kind of create a European financial data space, which is very important too. And fourth, to address new challenges and risks. And I will speak a little bit, introduce each of these priorities now. First, tackling fragmentation of the digital single market. As I said, very kind of traditional in the sense that we build a single market, we lay the actions in terms of regulation and supervision to ensure that the digital single market can happen. However, we also now see a lot of opportunities for both people and firms thanks to digital means. It may make it easier for firms to kind of scale up and target consumers, to onboard consumers in other member states, and it may make it easier for kind of people to kind of tap these opportunities in member states beyond their own. So a lot of the focus that we will have in the coming years is to kind of enable this. And the means that we've identified to do that is digital identities. So we want to really kind of lay down the conditions for an EU-wide interoperable framework for digital identities in finance. And of course, this will have to go hand in hand with kind of strict rules to identify customers and to kind of prevent money laundering. And we are working on proposals to that effect that will come out later this year. A second priority is perhaps more inward looking in a sense. We, as I mentioned at the outset, are responsible for kind of managing what we label the EU acquis of EU financial regulations. How does this acquis work in light of kind of innovation that the processes of digital transformation bring in? So what we need to do here is to kind of look at the rules we have in place to review and assess whether they work or whether they put undue barriers on some of these technologies. Some of the current legislative proposals that we put forward in September last year is kind of a mature manifestation of the work that this would result in. I'll speak about that in a minute. But we will also more regularly in the years to come continue these kind of reviews of existing EU financial services rules and the extent to which they cater for innovation of digital finance, and if not, take the actions needed to ensure that they do. A third priority is to kind of create a European financial data space. This is very much in line with the kind of top policy priority here to kind of promote data-driven innovations in the EU. And there's a lot of things going on to kind of lay a broader economy-wide horizontal policy strategy to enable the larger pooling and sharing of data and to put that to good use. Of course, with consumers and customers and clients and people at the center who have to give their consent for the use of their data. So we have a really kind of broad policy objective here to kind of create a single market for data subject to these conditions and constraints. That we believe can yield a lot of benefit. For example, we know that financial firms, many of you who listen to this, already put a lot of data in the public domain. Digital technology can help aggregate that information, make it easier to access, which is beneficial for other market participants and supervisors. Speaking of supervisors, there's also a lot of supervisory data that firms have to report. Digital technologies can help there too. And we work also to kind of facilitate that. And third, there's a lot of benefits that can be granted to consumers and clients as well. We've seen that in area of banking, open banking for payment services, and we believe that holds a lot of potential for other kind of financial services as well, and will hence work on an open finance framework to that effect. Fourth, another final kind of set of priority that we set out in strategy is about challenges and risks. The three priorities that we've been speaking about so far, that I've been mentioning so far, is very much about creating opportunities. Opportunities in terms of data, opportunities in terms of leveraging digital ideas, opportunities in terms of making sure that kind of new technologies can prosper and that regulations do not unduly hinder them. But of course, there are risks and challenges as well. Cyber risks have become more apparent, and I'll come to that in a bit. We have a proposal that tries to address that. But of course, what we also see, and that's a very kind of interesting change that we've seen over the years, is of course in the area of financial services, a much bigger presence of technology companies. And we believe that that is here to stay. So far, technology companies have mainly provided technology services, but we also do see a trend of them increasingly stepping into financial services provision themselves or in partnership with existing financial institutions. And that is something we need to look at to ensure that if there were to be big changes in this respect, that the objectives of our EU financial regulatory framework in terms of financial stability, consumer protection, market integrity, and fair competition are upheld. So that is also something that we will work very hard on, and we will take the help of the European supervisory authorities who will receive a call for advice to kind of advise us on the way forward in this respect. So this, I think, kind of sums up the kind of broader strategy that will guide the Commission's actions in the years to come. Let me now turn briefly to the two legislative proposals that accompany the strategy when we adopted it last year. The first set of proposals are about crypto assets, where we have seen that this is a very kind of a promising area that holds a lot of potential of rendering the financial system more efficient, but that also comes with a lot of challenges and risks, and where there's a huge degree of legal uncertainty about which rules apply. And we also do know that there's a lot of market initiatives at our doorsteps which hold the potential to become very important. So here we really want to ensure that this positive potential of innovation is leveraged so that we provide clarity about what rules apply, but we also need to ensure that consumers are protected and that the broader financial stability associated with some of these initiatives, namely the global stable coins, are promoted as well. So hence, we propose a common EU framework, tighter rules, and EU supervision of stable coins. And really here also want to avoid money laundering. Finally, let me say a few words on kind of another legislative proposal on digital operational resilience. I mentioned before that one of the risks we see is cyber risk. That's one aspect of it. But more broadly, we also see that financial firms increasingly rely on technology companies in order to be able to kind of technically provide their financial services. With that dependence, of course, comes an imperative to ensure that these technology services and this technology is safe and sound, and that firms are resilient to any potential risk in that respect. So if they were to experience trouble, or if there are third parties who deliver these technology services were to experience trouble, that they can rapidly address them, and so that hence the continuity of financial services is not affected. So that's the kind of underpinning objective of the another set of proposals that we came up with in September last year on digital operational resilience, where we want to kind of lay down a general risk management framework for how you handle these risks. We want to kind of streamline the way that firms report about the incidents that they may suffer, so that everybody who needs to know, especially in the financial supervisory community, know what to do. And also we want to ensure that firms proactively test their resilience capacity in that respect. And finally, we also want to establish kind of an oversight framework for these kind of critical third-party service providers who provide the technology on which financial firms increasingly rely. So with this, with this presentation, I've tried to give you an overview of the priorities that we have set out at the European Commission that will guide our actions in the years to come, and also to briefly take you through the two legislative proposals that we adopted at the same time. Thank you.